Hello, this is a casted game between myself, Hippie, playing a 7th Panzer DDR again, against a player called X-Nihilio, who's playing as 5th Panzer West German again. And it's on death row this time. And just before I get into the deployment, a bit of housekeeping. X-Nihilo is a 1 or 2 time tournament winner from an American group of tournaments hosted by Emperor Nate, and he is, in my opinion, a very good player. So, first things first, why is it a grudge match? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you don't care about drama, then please skip this part of the video. The timestamps will be in the description. But for the rest of you, I introduce you to my drama PowerPoint presentation. So why is this a grudge match? Well, let's start at the beginning. On the 23rd of December 2022 at 8:27 p.m. GMT, I asked if anybody wanted to face my 7th Armoured, the reason, 7th Panzer even. The reason is that I wanted to make a video. The video went live yesterday, and I played Phoenix, and spoilers. So, 5 days later, I get a message from X-Nihilio, and I reply within 1 minute. And then he goes AFK for a whole hour. So while I was waiting for him, a player by the name of Georgy Zhukov, a hero of the Soviet Union, joined the lobby, and I kicked him because I was waiting for somebody, and then he removed me off Steam. So I lost a friend due to X-Nihilio while waiting for him. So eventually he finally shows up. I mean, he changes his name all the time. Right now he's called Sergei Shoigu, another Soviet general, and eventually we play. So halfway through the game, he messages me, which is a bit strange because we're in the game, and it turns out that it's not actually him; it's somebody else. I'm just playing against some random guy who claimed to be him. So by this point, I win through my struggles and etc. But my energy is drained. I've lost my APM. It's been a long day. I also had to throw away some fresh British double cream because it went past its sell-by date. So at this point, I'm really, really demoralized. And this is probably X-Nihilio's fault as well. So we finally play. He's now called Windigo, and by the time the game ends, his name is something else. But I'm tired from the drama, and to add insult to injury, he picks 5 Panzer, which was also the topic of my previous video, 5 Panzer versus 7th Panzer. So this will lower the hit rate on my YouTube channel because people don't want to see what they perceive to be the same game twice. So I always like to finish with a quote. This one is by Ernst Junger, who fought on the Western Front in World War One. He was present at the Somme and a number of other offensives and defensives, but he was on the German side, so I'll read this out to you now. I won't go along with phrases like more freedom. I am no liberal, at least not in the sense that people have to get together and vote on the matter. One carries freedom inside oneself. A man with a good mind will realize his potential in any regime. Once his good mind is recognized, he will advance anywhere, cross any line. He does not pass through the regimes, they pass through him, barely leaving a trace. He can do without them, but they cannot do without him. So thank you for listening to my PowerPoint presentation. And unless there's any questions, we'll get on with the game now. Oh, looks like we have a question from the back there. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Yeah, it's a great question. This is a debate which has been ongoing for some time. So I know for a fact that Karma brings his Motshots and BMP in the W50 truck so that they can get there faster. I believe his reasoning is that the BMP 1P right now is kind of bad. The gun on it in particular is analogous to an SPG-9 gun, but it has slightly less rate of fire and 3-second aim time, which is a lot. So yeah, he brings it in the truck, but I think the BMP-1P has its place. So the optics are mediocre instead of, you know, bad, like a lot of other things. And it has 3 front armor and it has smoke now. So with 3 front armor, it will survive a max range tank shot from most tanks with 1 or 2 HP left, and then it can smoke and survive. So in the pushes, this thing can theoretically take 3 hits. The first one hits the armor, the second is cancelled by the smoke, and the third one blows it up. So they're really good for the pushes. I've also been experimenting with keeping infantry in the BMP-1Ps as they advance, just to help the infantry a bit, because right now autocannons shred infantry in the open. But I'm still working on that. The only other difference with this deck from last time is that I've upvetted the Strela 2Ms from 12 to 8, mainly for the fire rate, not really the accuracy. A useful rule of thumb is that if you find you're not bringing all of a unit in a 40-minute game, just try upvetting it, run it again and see, you know, is this better, is this worse? You'll find that there's a lot of things you can upvet that you didn't realise once you implement this method. Apart from that, the deck is entirely the same as it was in the video that went up yesterday, so that will be the first link in the description if you want to watch that. I don't want to waste any more of your time by running through the same thing over and over again. Right, so this is the deck review for X-Nihilio's 5th Panzer. You'll see immediately that it is different from Phoenix's 5th Panzer from yesterday. So a lot of people say, you know, variety is dead. Certainly compared to Wargame, there are fewer choices in the deck creation, but you can still end up with a substantially different deck for the same division. So we'll jump into this tab by tab as usual. First things first, he only brings 1 card of supply, which I find quite surprising. Most people bring 2 these days. I know there's been talk of a fob being added to the game, but that's not here yet. We don't even know what that will look like. This is a pretty normal CV combination. We spoke about the Fuchsführer and how I prefer it to the slow one. I would usually turn the MG off so it doesn't reveal itself when a helicopter flies over it or something. But yeah, quite surprising to see only 1 card of supply. Here he's filled this tab entirely, so Jägerführer, 125 points for strength. Your alternative is one with 1 less availability and another one with 1 less availability. Pioneers and Pioneer Flams in the regular Fuchs, so we spoke about this last time, so I think the Fuchs Milan is better. For 5 points you get a Milan. This Fuchs, what does it do that the Unimog doesn't do? They have the same road speed, or 8 kilometers now different. It has much higher off-road speed, which is useful. When you're trying to rush these guys in, you might not want to take the road, and you're still going to go quite fast. So that is useful. But the MG3 is not good for fire support at all. You have to drive within 850 meter range, which means a max range rocket launcher, such as a Carl Gustav, is going to kill you. So I prefer the Fuchs Milan because yeah, you can do everything that you just did, and then you can drive it back and use it as an ATGM. Same here. Jaeger. So the question right now is Jaeger versus Pioneer Armburst, because they're the same price. So do you want to have a slightly slower rocket launcher and 1 more man for the same price? And then there's the question of transport options and so on. Jaeger is solid. It's just right now medium machine guns aren't very good, and that keeps 5th Panzer and 2nd Panzer down a little bit because the MG3 isn't what it once was. Sicherungs, so these guys are meat for the machine. They don't have an MG, they don't have a rocket launcher. They're literally, you just use them as a screening force in front of your main troops. You'll see these a lot in the game. Marder 1A3 in the Carl Gustavs, or Carl Gustav in the Marder 1A3. So the Carl Gustav is the German 850 meter range rocket launcher. I know it's not actually German. It's the German Army's 850 meter range rocket launcher. And it's not fantastic. It's good, but it's not fantastic. And this is one of Germany's disadvantages, is that they don't have the power that Pact has, or for example Britain, where in the forest, if somebody drives a vehicle up to you, you just blow it up straight away. They don't really have that because the Carl Gustav's not great. They don't have something like the AT-4. They don't have the Law AT or the RPG 7VL ABCDE. But they get the Carl Gustav, which is, it's better than nothing, but it's not perfect. Then you get the Panzer Grenadier Marder, and he brings them in the 1A3 Milan. He brings one card in the 1A3 Milan upvetted, so he gets 6 availability and 9 availability without the Milan. So that's interesting. Yeah, if you find that you're not buying 9 of them over the course of a game, then you should upvet them, as we spoke about. Artillery, 2 cards of mortars for 8 mortars total. Do you find that you use 8 mortars over the course of the game? You probably don't, right? This thing's in a bit of a weird place right now, so it's got the same aim time as the big gun. But its shots down range are higher. There is a place for it. So you can see this, right? So the towed one is better and cheaper. It's almost half the price. The disadvantage is it's towed, so it will not survive counter battery unless you're very, very actively moving it around. So that's a trade-off you have to make. Sometimes you need to admit that, and I have to make this choice a lot, where I will go for the more micro-intensive option because I think I'm hot shit. And then I find that actually the more micro-intensive option keeps dying because my attention is constantly drawn elsewhere. So it's up to you, but I think for half the price, it's probably better to get the towed one right now. Then you have this bad boy, which is really, really good on 2 lakes, as we spoke about in the game against Phoenix. So typically you want 2 of these, although you don't really need to. The way I would build this is I would do that. But it's personal preference, right? It's not my deck. So these things are really good for deleting houses and people, because it does 6.9 HE per hit, and so if they both hit at once, then that's that's beep boop. That's almost 14 HE. It's just 13.8 HE. An infantry squad has 10 HP. So you'll just burst down an infantry squad straight away, and you'll demolish a house. I actually don't know how much HP houses have, but I've seen these demolish houses. So they're really good. Tank tab, so Nihilio brings the 2A4, which we spoke about last time. So this thing is expensive. And you get half the availability compared to the 2A3. So yeah, you can see that he's got less units in his tank tab, but he has high availability because he's brought them down vetted. So that's one way you can do it. I would be tempted to start vetting these and see, do you run out? Because the increase in the accuracy and the fire rate is huge. 13 rounds a minute is really good. So yeah, if you can keep your tanks alive, then it's good to upvet them. Recon. So he doesn't bring the Jaeger Aufklärer, which are the best recon in the game, at least the way I use them. So that's a shame. What's he bringing instead? So he's bringing the Fern Speyer. So these are some sort of like satchel recon, and I don't like them because I like to use my recon either for recon or for I mean, look at that. It's like green army men. Like they've got plastic faces. I like to use my recon either to recon or to blow up vehicles around the back, and this does not do the blow up vehicles around the back, and it does not recon as effectively as, for example, standard Aufklärer. Which he also brings, but he does not bring the Jaeger Aufklärer, which is the 11-man combat squads, where what I think is one of the best things about the German divisions and friends. I mean, a lot of guys get this now. He brings 2 cards of the Lux. Do you need 8 Lux? And he does not bring the recon helicopter. So, as you know, you should always bring a recon helicopter. You should always bring a recon helicopter. Next tab, you should always bring a recon helicopter. Next tab, so Roland 3 instead of the Roland 2. We spoke about this last time. Roland 3 is radar, so it will get hit by seed, but it's better. You know, at everything except that. So, in the game, as you'll see, Nihilio is really, really good at microing his radars, and that helps him a lot. He doesn't bother bringing manpads, he brings 2 cards of Gepards, which does happen. So that's because the Gepard has such a really good anti-helicopter range, there's less utility in the Fliegerfast. But I actually still like these. Once again, another 5th Panzer player that no longer brings tows in helicopters. And you'll note that he doesn't have any tows in this tab apart from the Marder 103 Milan. He doesn't have any tows in this tab. And he's playing against a tank division, so this is going to be a big problem for him in the game. But the Apache's very good, and he uses it very well in the game. Air tab, this is filled out quite well. So last time we spoke about how 5th Panzer does not have good ASFs. These are your options. Air Superiority Fighter. These are your options, and the ranges aren't great, and the speeds aren't great. So he has fixed this, or worked around this, by bringing 8 bad ones, which, yeah, you can do if you're going to mass them up. If you can mass them up, it's good, and you can always hide behind your Gepards and stuff. But you won't really be able to intercept. It's more reactive. Alpha Jet, everybody's bringing this these days. The gun's really good. This thing can kill tanks just by hitting it in the front with the rockets and the gun. If it gets a good pass off, it can kill those. And the gun is crazy. Like, it shoots 3,000 meters against aircraft. High rate of fire, high accuracy. So this thing can actually kill planes quite easily. So if you get too close to it, it just turns and shoots you from 3 kilometers away. So it's good. People should bring it. Tornado HE, so you got a couple options for HE. You've got the MW1, which is hilarious against light targets, but it's so expensive these days, it's really difficult to justify. The HE2, which, you know, kills people, etc. Differences is a bit slower, and it costs 60 points more. And the supply cost is 360, which means 5 minutes. No, it doesn't. It means 6 minutes, because that's 360 seconds. So the Tornado IDS is probably better. The difference is you only get 2 Tornado IDSs, whereas you get 3 F4 FHE2s, but I prefer the Tornado IDS. Tornado IDS Cluster, so it's the same again, but for Cluster, for killing tanks, because as we spoke about last time, the F4 F80 is not good against tanks, because the Mavericks usually miss, and then it dies. Okay, so with that out of the way, we'll get on to the deployment, and I will start with my opponent's deployment. So let's go from left to right here. This point over here, occasionally people will rush things down this road and kill you, and so it's good to defend with a unit or 2. It seems that Nihilio intends to attack, because he has 1 Jaeger for the AT and 1 Pioneer Flam for the infantry. In the middle, he's bringing 1 recon and a bunch of other stuff. So most people don't open with 3 tanks, but with the map being as small as it is, it can be useful to do, because it's not like, how do I put this? So the reason you don't open with a heavy tank is, well, it might die, but also if you send it to here and the enemy attacks somewhere else, then you've just, you're totally fucked, because you can't cover the whole ground. But on death row, because the map is really narrow, you can afford to open with this sort of thing, and he uses it very well. So he's brought a Gepard and a Roland 3. This is analogous to the Pact's one Cub, one Shilka thing, to protect his tanks, which is very necessary because he has 3. You have to put yourself into the mindset of your opponent. I have a heavy tank, he's probably going to try and kill it with a plane. Then he brings some Zickerungs to sponge, to absorb damage, and 1 Madre 3, and a mortar for smoke. So he certainly seems to want to go on the offensive. On the right-hand side here, he's got 1 Aufklärer. Yeah, anyway, he didn't bring the 11-man squad, which I think is a real mistake, because these guys are going to die quite fast, because they have such little HP. And he's backing it up with 2 Zickerungs and another Marder 1A3. On the far right, he's got a Lux, just to hold down this flank. It's a good vehicle, it's smart. It's, it's used for flanking and being annoying, but because the map is so narrow, there's not many roads you can send it down. Because, chances are every road will be covered from the start of the game because the map is so narrow. So let's switch to my deployment. So we'll go from left to right. So meeting the Lux, we're going to have 1 motorized Aufklärer, just going here because I'm scared that a Lux will come down this road and kill me, so I'm deploying early, which was the right move. And 1 UAZ SPG-9, which I'm going to send around the back to Sniper's CV. Going towards the middle here, so I tend to bring a lot more recon than most people, and, I think I'm right, but there you go. I'm deploying the motorized Aufklärer here. This is a really good building to get at the start of the game. It can be seen as a bit greedy. Most people deposit here and here, but there's a small fight for this building at the start, and I think this side has the advantage because this road is sort of covered by the building, so you don't get shot. I haven't tested that extensively. And I'm backing it up with a SPG-9 and a Strela. Well, the SPG-9 is actually going to here. I really like this spot. So the trees give it cover and it can shoot. I don't know why I put it on that road. It should probably be better on this road. Going towards the middle, we've got 2 more motorized Aufklärer. So I wanted one to go here, and that will auto path to here, which was a mistake. I guess I should unload it here because you don't want to be dragging this out in the open in front because it'll die. The other one's going to this house, which I know I'll get to first, because neither of us have forward deployment divisions. And my main push, the plan, as it were, is to do the standard 7th thing that we spoke about last time, open 2 T-72s. Okay, so my plan is a bit different from last time, so I've decided to open 2 CVs. Because the map is so narrow, it's quite hard to push on this map, because it's not like you can flank people. It's very difficult to flank on this map because it's basically a corridor. For that reason, I don't like it very much, and so a strategy on this map is to cap 2 zones at the start, and then you force your enemy to push into you for the rest of the game. 7th isn't the best division at doing this, and it goes against the ethos that we discussed last time about how 7th should aim to apply pressure early and apply pressure continuously to prevent the enemy from building up a critical mass of heavy tanks. And I still stand by that logic. I don't know what I was thinking here, really. So let's go through what we're bringing. Cub, Shilka, 2 Strelas, very, very standard. So the Strelas are going to here. The Cub and the Shilka are going to here, and I've brought some munitions with them. The 2 CVs, you see some people at the start, they cap the +2 zone with like 1 CV. And why don't you just cap the +3 zone? And then you get +3 points instead of +2. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why people do that. So I bought 2 CVs at the start to stack points, and then I'm gonna sit back and relax for the rest of the game. The T-72 is going to here, and the Conkers is going to this building here. Conkers isn't going to kill heavy tanks, but it is just going to shut down this entire area. On the right, I've got one half clearer going to here, and then I'm going to deposit the vehicle here so I get some good vision. It's a recon vehicle. And on the far right, I've got one half clearer going to here in case somebody tries to push me. And I've got an SPG going around the side, all the way back here, down here, and then I'm going to cut across here and try to snipe his CV. So with that out of the way, let's get on with the game. Right, so they're off. Once again, I will cast from my side. I know some casters like to cast from the middle, but I always feel like I'm reaching over a long table when I try and discuss events back here. So I prefer to cast like this, and I want you to get into my head a little bit and try to understand the reasoning behind why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I've capped 2 zones at the start because I intend to play defensively, which in hindsight was a mistake. I spoke last time about the need for 7th to constantly keep up the pressure, especially against these tank divisions, and stop them from bringing up loads of tanks, because if they do that, you're going to have a really rough time. So I assumed he would open Apache, so I also bought an AT plane at the start of the game, and there was no Apache. So I evac. He's noticed that I just capped this zone. So he, with his first minute income, he brought in an Iltis, and you'll see it's going to the +2 instead of the +3. So we just spoke about this. That is suboptimal. It doesn't make any sense. Over here, I get to this building. He saw me get out because of the looks, but it couldn't shoot me because I got out early, but it could see me. So now we're fighting here. And the Leopards are already in action, and you see that I only had 1 tank here instead of 2, so we spoke about this last time. The small, you know, I needed 2 tanks here, really. This could have gone a lot differently if I'd had 2 tanks here instead of 1. But this Leopard is now being annoyed by the SPG-9 and the Conkers. But yeah, this dies. The main axis of his attack is here, which is also coincidentally where I wanted to attack him. So I'm basically just running right into him. I use the Bison to try and kill these guys, but he gets out. And then, yeah, so I get hit by some AA, but I'm like, you know, it's fine because the Roland's already fired its missiles. But then I turn the wrong way like a numpty, and it turns out he had a second Gepard here, so I lose this. That was my fault. I'm still +3. So now he... But I would have been +2 if his first CV went to here instead of to here. Over here, my munitions are out of position. Just trying to get them into position. You see that, you know, the recon goes first, and my opponent understands this. He's got his own recon, and that's why he can see me, and I see him. Sadly, I'm going a bit too far forwards here. And he smoked off my Conkers, which is really smart, because now he can move this guy around, and he couldn't have done that before, because I would have started shooting at him. But also smoked off this guy. So that's a really good use of the mortars for smoke. I'm now bringing in more T-72s to press my advantage here. He makes a bit of a micro mistake here, tries to get me, and then he does get me, so it wasn't actually a mistake. I think I'm going to lose this as well. And yeah, I made a bit of a mistake here. I shouldn't have pushed with 1 tank instead of 2. Apache over here. I'm still +3. He's now got 2 CVs on the way to stop that. And I anticipated that because they always do that. So, okay, so I didn't anticipate it fast enough. Right, so these finally show up and I can push him back. I should have just moved these a little bit forwards here, but I couldn't actually see these guys because I didn't have recon. He re-smokes up the conkers. And I know now that he has recon here, so he can see all this. But if I move this up, it'll die. So I need to leave it back. This guy takes a shot, smoke. These are too close together, it invites a bomber. Do we get a cub hit? So yeah, we get one cub hit and the shilker finishes it off. And because it's a HE bomber, my tanks survive. Because I also move them out of the way a little bit. He tries to snipe my helicopter with the darts, the whatever it's called, the starfighter or something. That doesn't work anymore. You need to. It used to work, but it hasn't worked for a couple of months now. So my helicopter survives, and you know I hit him, and then I leave. This guy's out of position. He should be back here in the forest cover. Over here, he's cleared me out, and then he's ran back. So Zickerungs, right? You think, wow, they're amazing, but they don't have an anti-tank option. So if you push in here with this guy's 1 HP, so he's gonna die. And then this guy can't fight tanks. So this is a really bad idea. As it stands, I'm a bit worried, because I've got nothing here, so I start reinforcing this. If he'd been a bit faster, he could have just fast moved this Lux all the way around the back and just really mess with me. But people tend to be conservative because they expect me to have something there. And now we're stuck in exactly the kind of fight that 7th does not want to be in. So the range of this fight is tank gun range. And 5th has really good long range tanks, especially compared to 7th. So we're in this really sticky situation where my 2,800 meter guys aren't useful because they're always going to be in tank range. I cannot be 2,800 meters away from this tree line while maintaining line of sight. You can just see it from the can you? Yes, you can see it from that outer circle, right? There's nowhere I can really be. So I can't keep him back. So I've got a real problem here. The advantage which I'm now playing to is the fact that because of my CV shenanigans, I'm going to win this game unless he does something. So now I'm performing a holding action by stacking T-72s, which is really not what I wanted to be doing. So I'm in a tricky spot here. I've really messed this up. So I'm trying to get back in over here because I just have no idea what's over here. This has come for my helicopter. And the Strella's miss, which happens. The Cub misses, which, you know, it was only in range for 1 missile. So that happens, and this guy survives. Over here, I think I've spotted something. Yeah, so he can't just walk down the middle because I'm going to hit him from 3 sides. So, yeah, he's forced to smoke him back there. And that's kind of how you have to play Death Row. You need to make this concave shape. And move up the sides of this zone. Because if you go across the middle, the enemy's concave shape will shoot at you from multiple sides and you'll get side hit and you'll die. So I'm now suffering from what I spoke about, which is that, you know, I can't fire the toes, right? Because I'm already in tank gun range and then I die. So I've got a real problem here. So, you know, I'm forced to smoke them back, shoot smoke back, shoot smoke back. I should have some man pads in here to stop things like this from happening. But you see the issue, right? So it's difficult for him to micros tanks. But if both of these leopards shoot on one target, there is a significant chance that they'll both hit and I'll lose the T-72 immediately. So I can't really play to my strength here, but I have the advantage of being on the defense. So what are my priorities right now? Well, my first priority is to snipe his CV, And that should always be your first priority. You see what happened here? He was shooting down here, he got shot in the sides, and I got him. So yeah, your first priority should be to snipe the enemy CV. Your second priority is to just sort of push these sides back so he can't hit you from multiple angles. So this is a real problem. I need to get rid of this, but I can't even see it because I don't have recon. If this guy goes forwards, he dies. If this guy goes forwards, he dies in one hit. So this is getting really sketchy for me here. So he's smoking here to push, which is a mistake because, well, obviously he doesn't know what's in here, but these guys will win at close range. Over here, I'm trying to keep these guys alive. I'm trying to micro them. He's getting stuff done over here. He's finally realised his advantage. But my opponent's push is a bit weird, right? So he's pushing in without 80 infantry. And that... So what he really should have done here is got a load of Panzer Grenadier Marders, kept the Leopards back because they're good at long range, and then sent the infantry forwards with the IFVs behind it. And then anything that shows itself to shoot the Leopard, because you see from these line of sights, he can keep this back here and still shoot, as we're seeing. Anything that comes up to shoot the infantry in front will get hit by the Leopards. So he's playing his division wrong, basically. Because the Leopards... I get the CV. And I've seen this now, so I've been bringing people up. Because the Leopards are good at long range. He has an advantage against me at tank gun range, 2,225 meters, whatever it is. And so that's what he wants to keep those guys at. I'm being a bit silly here. This was a mistake. I should have had the seed plane with that to protect it instead of 10 minutes behind. So you see, so he got in here. So if he'd had some IFVs and some Panzer Grenadier Carl Gustavs for the AT, he could have kept his Leopards back here, got in here and stayed in here, but instead he's got this problem where he got in there and he couldn't really do anything, and now he's moving his Leopards forwards again, and I outnumber him. And he's sending his Leopards into rocket launcher range. So, as we discussed, you know, and this is just going to keep happening, where I just... as we discussed last time, the Leopards are good at range. They have low armor and good guns for their price. If you think about, you know, what's the money going into? The money's going into the gun, not the armor. So by closing the distance, he's throwing away his principal advantage of the tank. So, you know, we just finished this one off. I lose the helicopter, which shouldn't have happened. And you see the advantage of the Gepard with its 3 front armor. It tanked to hit, and, you know, well, I mean, it died eventually, but he could have smoked that and survived. He hasn't noticed that this is dead. This has been stabilized. And, yeah, it's an issue with unit composition, right? So, Zickerungs and Leopards is not sufficient. He's over-relying on his Zickerungs. Yeah, by all means, bring a couple Zickerungs, but it should be Leopards, Marders, Recon, Anti-Air, and Infantry with AT. And then you can set your line up here, and you can push into here, or push into here, right? But the point is, don't just advance. He's using his smoke very, very well. So what he could have done is just smoked off all of this, and then hit me here, with the infantry, and once the infantry's in with the anti-tank launchers, I have a real problem, right? Because if I go forwards, the tanks are going to hit me, and then meanwhile you've got these guys just sort of sneaking through with the rocket launchers, and I would be hypothetically pushed out of my position. Over here there's some micro. I micro badly. I micro badly over here as well, but I've managed to sort of just get back in here. And I've managed to push these guys out of here, and his push here went nowhere. He lost almost everything. And now he's trying to push here. which I saw coming because he fought me a little bit. So I was like, oh, I need to reinforce. So that's another point you can make, is that if you're going to attack into an area, go hard all at once. Don't do this slow escalation thing, because that gives your enemy time to react. If you send one unit forwards, your enemy's going to send 2 units to go kill it, because he wants to win. And then the rest of your push comes, and, you know, there's 2 units there that weren't there before. I tried to snipe the leopard, because I believe there's no AA here, because that tends to be what happens, right? If it's all over here, it's not over here. This is never going to catch me. But I miss. Behind it I have the seed plane, which it should be right behind it. It should not be 5 seconds behind it. He's stabilized. Another funny trick you can do with these guys is send them down here and then lower their altitude, so that way the planes can't see them, because there's trees either side, so the planes can't get a good gun run. Yeah, look how low he is. And then anybody that comes down here, you can just twat them with the rockets. And this is the difference between high and low altitude. So I'm aware of a problem over here. You know, he's trying to push here, and he's trying to push here, and he's trying to push here, and because of that, none of them are working. But if all of this had been here when he attacked, maybe that would have worked. Blind drop with the bison, I think it misses everything. Something that both of us really could have done here is bring artillery. I don't have any. He's got mortars, which he's using for smoke to block this off, which should have been resupplied. This should be slightly up here to resupply this. This should be healed. Because the game is so static and I know where a bunch of his stuff is, I could have just brought up some Acacias and started hitting him, and he could have done the same to me. He probably felt like he couldn't due to time pressure, and I felt like I couldn't due to, you know, actual pressure, like he kept attacking me everywhere, so I felt like I kept needing units. This is coming for where he thinks I am, but I've actually pulled back a bit. The mistake I've made here is no supply. And this and this could do with just being over here to cover this. T-55As are extremely good in the forest for their price. Because the NSVT is good and the tank gun's good, and they'll survive a front shot from most rocket launchers. So I used both of my Panzer rockets on the Fuchs so that Milan survives, which was my miss micro. If you're super pro, you can turn one weapon off, because they both fire at once. You can turn one weapon off, wait for one to fire, and then turn the other one on. But that's obviously extremely difficult to do. I'm reinforcing here because of this slow escalation. I'm retaliating. And I'm trying to roll the flanks a little bit. The center's stabilized. I need to roll the flanks a little bit. This is out of position, as we're about to find out. This is really out of position. This was because I was scared he would send somebody all the way around and attack me on the side, because that's what I'd do. So yeah, I wanted to use this here to push a little bit, but I couldn't actually see anything. And I know that he's got recon in here, so he can see all my stuff, so I was really scared. I wanted to bring up some more recon infantry. Now we've got this problem again. It's like I do 1 damage to him, and he does 4 to me, and then I got a smoke. So yeah, all of these should be shooting at once. The AM2B isn't useful here because I can't take advantage of the 2,800 meter range because we're at tank gun range, which is sad. This, I lost my recon, and now I can't actually see this. So I didn't even know that it was shooting me. So he's using his Zickrungs well here to sponge. I should have really clocked on to the fact that I was dying, but, you know. And I lost some tanks here to the leopards. They all shot at once, and I think I lost 2 T-72s. And all the leopards survived. So good micro from my enemy. I lose the T-72 here because I can't see, and now he's gonna to put the CV here, which I anticipated. So here's some more T-55s and AT planes there. I've got a bomber. So yeah, I don't like this map because there's no opportunities to just sort of switch it up and flank and hit them in the side or something. You're always fighting over the same places. It's always this incremental thing. The Milan survives a front shot from an RPG-7VL because of the 5 front armor, and everyone survives because we're microing, we're paying attention. He has now sent 2 starfighters to kill the helicopter, and it works. So yeah, you need 2. I really should have had a Shilka here. This isn't sufficient. And then I think I send out some fighters, but it's just like way too late to do anything. Yeah, so like, you know, geriatric reactions. He's brought up the Apache, which is smart. I don't have any AA here. So the seed plane I sent to kill the Apache, as you do. He doesn't have any AA here either, which is a mistake, because when you see your enemy in a patch of ground this big, you send in the bombers. So now I'm sending in the T-55s, max vetted T-55s. This guy I forgot to heal up, I just sort of panicked a bit. The BMP 1P beats the 1 HP Marder because he didn't heal it. And the bomber comes in to kill the Jägerführer, and he doesn't have any AA, so he can't punish this. So he should have brought some more anti-tank there, really. The Leopard 1 is not a scrappy tank, it's not a close-range tank at all. It should be kept at range, like all the Leopards. And over here he's brought another critical mass of Leopards. He's trying to snipe my Mi-2. So yeah, at this distance, I can't win this fight. He has the better tools to win this fight. Leopard 2s, Leopard 1s are good at range. So I have a real problem here. And the way that he can win now is he brings up a bunch of Marders with Panzer Grenadier Carl Gustav in them. And, you know, he leaves the Marders here, he leaves these guys here, he sends some recon infantry forwards, the 11-man recon squad, which he didn't bring. And he runs all his infantry forwards and he tries to take this. Or he tries to take this. And whichever one he's not going to, he smokes to cut down on my fire superiority advantage. That is how, if I was in this situation, that is how I would win. There's also not enough AA here. There was a Gepard here. Where did it go? Oh, it might be this one. So yeah, he doesn't have recon, so it's the blind lead in the blind. I can basically see all this. I'm just sort of mauling because there's nothing I can do about it. And now he's trying to push me here. But, you know, Zickerung's no AT option. T-72, you just send it and you kill everything. So I've got 2 T-72s here, one to hit this way, one to hit this way. And so the Leopard 1A1 that was here died. AA behind, bringing up the supply. Recon. I have recon at the front. He has recon at the back. And yeah, the Zickerungs, right? So if I could not do this against a unit with Carl Gustav or Panzerfaust, right? I couldn't just send this in like this, but I can just run up to him and kill him. So they're not as useful as people seem to think. And yeah, so he sends over some of his Leopards, and at this point I've got to get out of here because I can't fight the Leopards at tank gun range. 2,275 meters, I cannot beat this, so I smoke him back. But, you know, and then I smoke again and continue to back. I get this guy in here. He's not got any recon here. He's not got any recon here. He's not got any recon here. This is here, this is good. This is, you know, in an alright place, like it stops this. this spots this. But yeah, this guy's had it now. I can't defend him from the tanks. But yeah, once again, the tank here is, you know, getting side shot, getting from 2 angles. The Apache, he's using this Apache really well. So, you know, he sends it back as soon as he's used it because he knows that I know it's there now. So I send this Strela forwards to try and kill it. And it's obviously not going to kill it, but it will at least scare it away and save my tank. So I miss. The Shilka's coming. Right, and here we see more infantry without IFV protection. And now he's brought up 320mm mortars. And this is honestly the worst mistake he could make. I am better at close range. He is better at long range. So what he's just done is cut the range down. There's something going on over here. But look, so these tanks are better at range. The closer tanks are to each other, the less they matter, because everything's going to one-shot everything else, or two-shot it. So he sends over the Tornado to kill these. The Shilka isn't sufficient, but it kills the Apache, so that's good. I lose my units. I lose a tank as well. But this is an unmitigated disaster. Like, he knows. He knows, because he stopped here, and he's like, oh, I can't actually push through the smoke. And yeah, he's right. So the Zickrings get through. They don't have an AT option. So what are they going to do when they run up to the tanks? And now, you know, the Leopard just lost half its HP to a T-55 because of the range. This one gets shot in the back. I have Mott Schutzen here who are now going to shoot it in the front. And, you know, this is just it's not the right way to play this division. Because he's throwing away his main advantage, which is the range. You want to keep the tanks back and not smoke off the things that you're trying to kill. So the Jaeger are here for the push, the anti-tank infantry we spoke about, but everybody's dead. And, you know, he's reversing because he's trying to save what's left, but this was a really, really bad trade. And the Jaeger are all going to dismount in the middle of this field now. He re-smokes. Bring up an AT helicopter just to kill anything that comes through. And yeah, he told me his internet died, which has happened to him a few times before, so I do actually believe him. But that game was over. So as you can see, he's called something else now. Anyway, I hope you learned something. Both sides made a lot of mistakes in this game. That's pretty funny. And you see that, you know, I was killing these when he drove up to me, the Leopard 2s. So a bunch of them died to Mott Schutzen and things like that. But when he kept me at range, he was winning. And so, well, I've laboured the point enough. Fifth wants to keep the tanks at a distance and move up with the tanks behind. This is good. This is good for him. I mean, obviously it's not good for me. This is good. And so, yeah, when he did that, he was trading really well. But when he threw his tanks forwards, he threw away his advantage, and that allowed me to chew him up. So yeah, I hope you learned something, and remember to keep those T-72s alive. And in regards to the whole drama thing, I don't actually care. I thought it was quite funny. I hope you found it funny too. If you didn't, well, there's nothing I can do for you.